let's tell you about the big face-off over English Vinglish. A classroom inspection in Tamil Nadu has turned into a political slugfest. What was supposed to be a routine school inspection is now becoming a full-blown war of words over English. This is the youngest minister in Vijay's cabinet, Keerthana. But now she's sparked off a big fight over student dignity and political legacy. Let's tell you why. Well, look at the visuals that you can see on your screens right now. Now, this is TVK leader, also the Commerce Minister, Keerthana Sampath. She's inside a government school in Virudhanagar. The minister asks a young student that you can see here, asks a question in English. What does your father do? When the child hesitates to speak in English, the minister turns to the teacher and she claims that the child is unable to answer even a simple question in English. The teacher then steps in. As you can see there, the teacher steps in and asks the question, prompts her in English, and then the child eventually manages to answer. Watch this entire sequence and then we are going to tell you just why it's kicked off this huge war of words.
இவங்கள்ட்டேயுமே நான் டைரக்டா ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்கிறேன். அவங்களால சிம்பிளான இதுதான் அவங்க அப்பா என்ன பண்றாங்கன்னா நம்ம கேட்போம். அதுவுமே வந்து ஆன்சர் பண்ண முடியும். ரைட்டா சொல்லுடா, உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சதை சொல்லு. கேட்கறாங்க. நீங்க ஒரு கான்வர்சேஷன் இங்கிலீஷ்ல கிளியரான சென்டென்ஸ் கேட்க சொல்லலாம் அப்படின்னா What is your father? My father is father என்ன பண்றாங்க?
What is your father's profession?
Profession. நீங்க லாஸ்ட் பெஞ்ச்ல கேளுங்க.
Well, after this video went viral, you have a big controversy which snowballed into a full-blown political confrontation. The DMK then launched a sharp attack on TVK Minister. None other than the leader of opposition, Udayanithi Stalin, has accused the minister of humiliating a young student instead of encouraging her. In fact, Udayanithi calls the interaction as very insensitive, as shocking, and said that the children should never be made uncomfortable in front of camera, that she must learn how to interact with the children better, saying that public representatives must interact more sensibly and should focus on building the confidence of students rather than undermining it. In fact, stepping up the attack, Udayanithi also alleged that classrooms should not be turned into a backdrop for social media or for publicity. In fact, he also says that she is a real mantri, saying that this stunt was pulled essentially just for a reel. But right after that, after facing intense trolling by the DMK, TVK's Minister Keerthana Sampath is pushing back, and she has scoffed at all the charges against her. She's rejected the opposition's allegation. In fact, Keerthana has said that her school visit has been deliberately politicized. This is what she says, that when she went there, she insists that her priority was the welfare of students in these government schools, not about a political scoring kind of a stunt. She argues that her interaction was to highlight the condition of government schools under DMK, claiming that years of neglect have left many of the students under DMK rule without quality education, even basic facilities. The minister also says that concerns are now being raised about the learning standards, how they should not be viewed through the political lens. But also, Keerthana Sampath very categorically said that this was not a reel which was made by her own social media team, that it was the media there who had taken this reel. So she's refuted, given a point-by-point rebuttal to Udayanithi. Let me go across to Dharni. Dharni, this is a very sensitive issue. After all, it is about English, and this is one of the very proud Dravidian nations which take a lot of pride in their language, Tamil. And now you have one of the youngest ministers of Vijay who brings with her a lot of optimism about going forward in the right direction with the youth. To have this kind of controversy, how does it reflect on Vijay? Or do you think after her clarification, after Keerthana came out with the clarification, this controversy now has ended?
Well, even after the clarification, the opposition, especially the DMK and also the BJP, they seem to be not convinced. They say that what the minister did inside a government school, that would have created a lot of inferiority complex among that particular students and also among other students. It is not only about that one student who can be seen in the video. Those who were in the class at that time, they would have also felt very inferior and they would have felt intimidated is what the opposition is telling, and they're also going on to speak about the need for such inspections by the ministers in the first place. Why does the ministers of TVK, be it Keerthana or any other minister, why do they often go to a government institution, be it a government school or a taluk office? Why do they go to these institutions along with their camera crew, and why do they do some gimmicks for the sake of reels is the question coming in from the opposition at this point in time. But the TVK on the other hand is completely refuting these allegations. And of course we saw what Minister Keerthana has to say. She says that she was not trying to create inferiority complex among the students, that she was not trying to do it for the sake of some videos. She really wanted to know about the condition of government schools and the English proficiency of the students, and that is why she did that inspection is what she is telling. But the opposition seems very less convinced by this justification coming in from Keerthana at this point in time.
Well, in fact, do stay on with us, Tarini, because now there are more reactions. Yes, even after Keerthana's clarification, this controversy is not dying down anytime soon. Now, the BJP has come out, hit out at Keerthana and have accused her of intimidating students during a recent incident. The BJP claims that the minister's conduct left students traumatized and have demanded accountability. Watch this.
For once, the TVK themselves have come to their senses, and today we had seen that Nirmal Kumar had given a statement that ministers should stop going and inspecting without reason. This comes after the incident where the very famous Reels minister, Ms. Keerthana, who's known for doing these gimmicks permanently, she does everything else other than her job as a industries minister. Instead of bringing in new companies and instead of making Tamil Nadu a prosperous state for which she has been assigned, she is busy visiting or in the context of inspecting institutions. She forgets everything other than industries and goes to every other department. She tries to show a proficiency. Unfortunately, showing the face of a girl child on screen and trying to embarrass her has not gone well. This is not something which is expected of a minister. This is not something which is to be done. And what is the purpose of going with a phone and a camera and then doing it with the crew and releasing it as a video? So that shows the clear intention that it was not to correct the government school, which is you do a review, you take a review of the teachers, you instruct them what has to be done. But instead of that, going and recording this on camera and putting it out is pure nonsense. It is pure
Well, in fact, let me go across to A. Sarvanan of the DMK who's joining us. Mr. Sarvanan, we just heard the minister, Keerthana, come out and say that it was not by intent to humiliate or mock anyone, says that ask these people who are criticizing me, trolling me, how many of their own kids are going to government schools. I am also a product of government school. What would you like to say to that?
It's very, very unfortunate that the minister went inside and bullied that girl child, forgetting the fact that language isn't indicative of intelligence or brilliance or knowledge or anything for that matter. Any child who's going to be seeing people in authority, that too she barged in with an entourage of her media, and any child will be intimidated by the situation. And when the teacher asks the same question, the child answers without any problem. And she also answers further questions. See, if you look at the sequence of the video, it is very clear that the industries minister, Madam Keerthana, has gone there with a preconceived notion that these people will not answer. In fact, her body language and the way she spoke will indicate that she did not want those children to answer so that she can make some snide remarks. And when the child answered, she says again, oh, look at the last benches. Will the last benches answer? What's her problem? And she
no, but Keerthana says that she was merely pointing out that there should be better education in English, saying that she herself struggled in English because she studied in a government school, saying that this was just a reality check to push the entire system to impart better English education. That's her defense.
This is not how you do it. A 10-year-old child, you go and bully them in front of cameras? Is this how you impart the importance of English? And does she not know that the Juvenile Justice Act and the guidelines of the Supreme Court, the guidelines issued by the Commission of National Children's Commission, do they not prohibit transmit?
But she said that she did not shoot that reel. The minister is very clear that she or her social media did not shoot the reel. It was shot by the awaiting media there.
Okay. So, as a responsible minister, does she not have the power to stop them? What had she done? So far, what had she done to take off those reels, take off those videos from the social media? Has she issued any kind of diktat to the media? Did she ask any? See, this is one aspect. The other aspect is, she says, she's now playing the victim card. Madam Keerthana, you are not the victim here. The victims are the children bullied by you. And she says, I also studied from a government school. It is very fortunate. You were very fortunate. The then DMK or ADMK ministers did not barge into your school and embarrass you in front of media.
Okay.
So you must count
Okay,
yourself
point
confident.
taken. A. Sarvanan of the DMK says she should remove the reel, that the minister should remove the reel and not make excuses. Let me go across to Narayan Tirupati of the BJP also joining us. How would you like to react? Because the minister has come out and said this was not a bid to humiliate. She wanted to do a reality check. It's not a real check.
No, see, 100%, this is not the way to review or do something, because it is the duty or right of the minister to review a government school, and there is no doubt that the quality of education in the government schools have come down. But this is not the proper manner in doing this, and what is the need for taking media when you are going to review all these things? And you have literally exposed, you have literally degraded so many children in front of the world, which is highly condemnable, and this is not the way. This is immature way of behaving. A minister should not have done this, and I think I will only blame the Chief Minister, Mr. Vijay, because it is not a new...
But Keerthana has asked how many of your kids are going to government schools, that she's also a product of government school?
No, see, that is what I said. There is no doubt. I don't doubt her intentions.
Okay.
But the way in which she has behaved is not right. There is a mechanism.
Okay, so the BJP also saying that it is not the intention behind this, but why post a reel about this where a child is getting embarrassed about not knowing good enough English?
Girls?
Is that it?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Why should they
Fine.
degrade our...
Thank you so much, Narayan Tirupati, for joining us. You just heard from the BJP, you've just heard from the DMK, you've just heard from the Minister Keerthana herself. But let's remind you, this entire sequence as it played out in a government school, where the minister, the youngest minister of Vijay, had gone to inspect the students, speaking to them in English. This is what happened, so that you, the viewers, can decide for yourself.
இப்போ இவங்கள்ட்டேருந்து நான் அந்த டைரக்டாக ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்குறேன். அவங்களால சிம்பிளான இதுதான், அவங்க அப்பா என்ன பண்ணுறாங்கன்னா நம்ம கேட்போம். அதுவுமே வந்து ஆன்சர் பண்ண முடியும். ரைட்டாக சொல்லுடா, உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சதை சொல்லு. அது சொல்லுவாங்க கேட்குறாங்க. நீங்கள் ஒரு கான்வர்சேஷன் வேணும் இங்கிலீஷில். கிளியரான சென்டென்ஸ் கேட்க சொல்லலாம் அப்படின்னா What is your father? My father is father என்ன பண்றாங்க?
What is your father's profession?
Profession. Father profession is இது நீங்க லாஸ்ட் பெஞ்ச்ல கேளுங்க.
Now you just heard the last sentence where she says, now ask the same question in English to the backbencher and we'll see what kind of a response comes. Which is why the DMK and the BJP now are training their guns at the Minister Keerthana. But remember, she is a young girl. She's the youngest minister on the cabinet of Vijay, and she brings about a lot of youth connect with her, a lot of hope to improve the existing situation. She on her part says that it is her bid to ensure that the government schools give better education, that they before under the DMK. But the DMK, of course, says that she was merely there making reels so that she could make her own popularity bid, and it was not about education, not about students, not about English either. So whom do you believe? Was it a real check or a reality check? We'll leave you, the viewer, to decide. Well, that is going to be one of the big stories that we are tracking, but for the time being, some big breaking news which is coming through, which is why we are shifting focus. This regarding the Diljit Dosanjh film Satluj. Well, there has been a big controversy after remember the Hush Hush premiere of that film, which happened on Z5, one of the OTT platforms, following which it was removed in 2 days. Now, sources are telling Times Now what is the inside story of its removal. Sources are citing CBFC recommended cuts. Over 100 cuts were suggested by the CBFC, but then the film was released without any of those cuts. However, the name of the film was changed from Punjab to Satluj, Punjab 95 to Satluj. That was the change which had made. Now, sources are citing CBFC's recommended cuts, saying that the film Satluj was earlier titled Punjab 95. It was submitted to the CBFC for certification. This had happened several years ago. Remember, it was close to 4 years since it was put on the back burner with the CBFC. Certain cuts were recommended by the CBFC. The filmmakers had challenged the CBFC recommendations in the Bombay High Court, but later they withdrew the case before the court could actually deliver its judgment. Well, the sources then said that the film was subsequently released silently on OTT platforms without the recommended cuts, prompting the government to write to the intermediary, as an OTT platform was not directly regulated by the government in the same manner as theatre releases are, which is why sources also clarified that no special committee had been constituted in connection with the matter. So let me go across to Pragya. Pragya, yesterday we weren't quite sure. Z5 was asked to remove. Who really asked them to remove? So now there seems to be clarity emerging. Sources are telling Times Now that it was the government, the centre, who had asked this film to be removed.
Well, the government sources are saying that, this particular film had come to CBFC when, it was supposed to be released as a feature film in cinemas. There were many cuts that were recommended, but then makers wanted to move Bombay High Court against it, but they withdrew the case before the verdict would come. Later they released it after 3 years. They had released it on OTT. Government found some objectionable content as far as national security is concerned. It looks like there had been some sort of, scenes and also the dialogues that were compromising national security. So government had told intermediary to look into the content because government does not regulate OTT content. And this is exactly the reason why government had to tell intermediary to regulate it or to take it down. And
just to get the facts right, Pragya, does the government so saying that they want to bring it back again later sometime?
So basically, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting had issued an order. In fact, there was Section 69A, if you remember, under IT Act. It also says that the intermediary can be asked to remove certain content if it is objectionable. So while there is no direct intervention by the government, but, under the IT Act, they can, put an objection to intermediary about the content that had been aired on this particular OTT platforms. And this is exactly what the government is saying, that the committee which will look into Satluj is part of the process. There is no special committee that the government is forming right now to look into the content, but the committee that will be formed is part of the process, when this IT Act was invoked. So it will look into it, but certainly, yes, they have, an IT ministry has a right to, object to OTT platforms and the intermediary to take objection to certain contents if they find it, violating any clause about national security.
Just to be clear on this, Pragya, the CBFC certification is not required for an OTT platform, is it? Because yes, cuts were suggested and recommendation, but the movie release was done without the cuts in apparently a hush-hush manner. But did the movie require CBFC certification and to comply with the CBFC suggested cuts?
No, it does not if it is being released on OTT. And this is exactly why this intermediary and the clause that IT Ministry has invoked was put into place. In fact, CBFC requirements and clearance and certificate is required because this particular Satluj movie was initially was a feature film that was put for the CBFC's clearance, many years ago. But that time it was named Punjab 95. But after they could not get the clearance, the makers decided to move it to OTT because then they would not need to remove any content. And as they also know that the government do not regulate OTT content,
right.
That is why they thought that this is the safest place to release this particular movie with the name change.
So very, very interesting. So the government said that, at least sources are telling us that the government had written to the intermediary, which is Z5 in this manner. We are also going to put on your screens graphics of what exactly it is Z5 had said. Remember, Z5 in its statement yesterday very categorically said that they were asked to remove it, they are reviewing it, they have removed it. However, they also said, we wish that we are going to bring it back to you very, very shortly. Let me go across to Sabyasachi as well. Sabya, it's very interesting to see. On one hand, the laws seem to be ambiguous when it comes to OTT. That is where the entire confusion seems to happen, because the makers did go to the High Court saying that they did not want so many cuts in their films, over 100 cuts which were there. But let me go across to Pragya. Pragya, it is a very interesting timing, isn't it? Because this is a film which has been stuck for, close to 4 years now, that this release comes very close to Punjab elections. The impact of this film being released, why is it a national interest story, and why could national security be endangered by it? Can you explain?
Well, the decade that we had seen in 80s and 90s in Punjab, it was a very turbulent one and the volatile period as well. We had seen Khalistan movement getting momentum in Punjab, and this also was a danger to the sovereignty of the country. And in fact, there were many elements who wanted Punjab to be separate from India. And this is why this particular movie and, the certain dialogues and in fact certain scenes become very crucial and sensitive as far as government is concerned, and this is exactly the reason why government says that the national security is paramount. They do not want to, give any sort of boost to any sort of, sentiment as far as Khalistani movement is concerned, and that is why you're right, absolutely right, that there are Punjab elections, but this is also a very interesting time, and the makers had put that on OTT, and this is the exact reason why government has objected to it as well.
Well, Pragya, do stay on with us. Sabya is also joining us. Sabyasachi, you must explain to us. Over 100 cuts, I believe, were recommended by the CBFC. Of course, this film was released on OTT without any of these cuts. But what were the alleged objectionable parts? Well, there seems to, and it did send it to CBFC. However, several years ago when this had happened, there were several cuts which were recommended, which was not put in place when it was released in a hush-hush manner on OTT. Let me go across to Shreya Srivastava, who's joining us. Shreya, very interesting to see this kind of a flip-flop, but you must explain to us, what are the parts which are objectionable about it? Because Diljit Dosanjh himself has come out and said, go watch it anywhere that you can. The filmmakers are saying, don't worry about piracy, just watch it. We want the film out there. What does Diljit and the filmmakers stand on this?
I think, Meghna, what makes this interesting is the sequence of events. This has happened in the past where even Urta Punjab was banned. CBFC recommended 90 cuts, but still the movie went with it. What makes this interesting is that the makers released the uncut version on 3rd of July. People watched it for 2 whole days and then it was taken down. And with Diljit even coming up on camera and saying that the video and the videos of the movie have been downloaded, they are being shared, people are watching it, but still they can't put it on the official OTT platform, which is what makes the whole movie controversy very interesting, because this is a one of its kind incident that has happened.
And Shreya, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because there seem to be versions of the movie which is released all across social media. It's available, it's there on YouTube, keeps getting banned, then it keeps popping up in X as well. So there seems to be a concerted effort being put out so that everyone gets to watch this film, and this seems to be coming from the filmmaker side. Would that be right to say?
Exactly. Now, if we see, there are a bunch of influencers who watched the whole movie and are putting out their opinions on what the movie held. And now everybody is trying to watch it, which makes it all the more exciting because people are online perpetually trying to get clips of the film and watching it.
Right, Shreya. So that's, of course, the controversy surrounding Satluj. Stay with us. Let me also get a word in from our colleague Sabyasachi as well. Savya Chachi, here's the problem. While, of course, the government through its sources might say that there were 127 cuts that had been recommended and none of those cuts were incorporated in the OTT release of the film, the filmmakers may well argue that OTT platforms are not governed by the provisions of the Cinematograph Act. Let me, in fact, take this across to Pragya. Pragya, you, of course, told us what the governments have had to say in this particular matter, which is that a lot of the content in this particular film is controversial, that there had been cuts that had been recommended. The timing of the release on the OTT platform is also questionable. But the filmmakers would then say that as far as OTT release is concerned, they've gone by what the laws prescribe, that they're not actually bound by the CBFC cuts when they're actually releasing it on OTT, because the CBFC has no jurisdiction over what goes on an OTT platform. So we might very well see the situation now between the filmmakers, the producers, and even ZEE5 included, together with the government perhaps even escalating over whether or not either of their actions is legal in this particular case.
Absolutely, Siddharth, and this is, is an old issue where the regulation by the government in the new form of entertainment was in fact discussed. If you remember, there was a parliamentary committee by MP chaired by Mr. Nishikant Dubey, who said that there should be a regulation on OTT platforms. And
Pragya, I just need to interrupt you for a moment because we have Mr. George Baker joining us. He's been a member of the CBFC in the past. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Baker. What's your entire take on what's happened with the release of Satluj on an OTT platform before it was taken down? One section says that this is amounting to censorship. The government, through its sources, now says that the film was actually released on the OTT platform without any cuts that had been prescribed by the CBFC. Your take, sir?
My take on it is simple. Any film which is meant for public view should not be released without a censor certificate. It should not be released without a censor certificate, whether it is OTT platform, whether it is for television, or whether for anything. People take a lot of advantage of the freedom given by television. That should not be so. Every film, I am talking of film, focusing in lens media, one's conception, film. I am talking of film.
Mr. Baker, your view is that no film, even on an OTT platform, should be allowed to be released without a proper certification or a censor certificate, as you would like to call it. But the filmmakers in this particular case would argue that the back and forth between the CBFC and the filmmakers went on for almost 3 years. There were as many as 127 cuts that have been prescribed by the CBFC, which many would argue is perhaps unreasonable. There was also...
That is, the amount is absolutely unreasonable.
Okay.
That is not the way a censor board should be there.
All right.
The censor board should be there so that it accommodates public viewing, public sentiment, and also the sentiment of the artist who is making the film. Please note, I said artist who is making the film. The director is an artist. He should not be curbed to that extent.
All right. All right, Mr. Baker, thank you for your response on this. The former member of the CBFC now weighing in on this entire controversy. Let me go across once again to Pragya. Pragya, we were in the midst of course, talking about why the government or the sources who've spoken to you have decided to rationalize their actions in the way that they have. The filmmakers, of course, will have an opposing point of view. For the timing, of course, this particular movie is taken off the OTT platform in which it was hosted. We'll have to, of course, wait and see as to how the situation evolves and whether or not the filmmakers, in fact, agree to incorporate some of those cuts prescribed by the CBFC as well.
Well, Siddharth, there is a lot of discussion and debate, around the regulations on OTT. In fact, government said that we do not want to over-regulate, and these are the new mode of entertainment. Remember, there has been a parliament committee headed by Mr. Nishikant Dubey, and there are many others also who aired their views on regulation of, content on OTT. But government said that this is self-regulatory in nature, and they cannot just intervene. But as far as national security is concerned, government is of the view that this particular film had come as a feature film to be aired in
cinema halls to CBFC, and then CBFC had recommended many cuts. Obviously, there are many in the society and section saying that these are facts that has actually happened in 90s, 80s in Punjab when pro-Khalistani groups ran amok. But the fact is that these should not be suppressed. There are many families who have lost their loved ones, and they could be relating to one of the stories, being seen, and they never got the justice. So, there are various views, but the government believes that this is a sensitive time. For the internal security sake, for the national security sakes, there are scenes and there are, dialogues in the film that seems to be suggesting a pro-Khalistan movement that was there in Punjab. In fact, the government did not want to air and give, some momentum to all those sentiments again. And this is the reason why they said that, there is an IT Act that has been invoked, and according to that IT Act, there will be a committee, and that formation of committee's process of that particular IT Act, which will, consider and look into the content of the film, and after only that they can release on the OTT. However, there is no direct regulation that the government can do on OTT platform, but they can always, according to this IT Act, they can always approach the intermediary. In this case, Z5. So they have approached it. This has been taken down for the time being. Let's see how this pans out.
All right, we'll have to wait and see how this pans out. Let me take this across to Shreya as well. Shreya, what are people within the entertainment and film fraternity telling you about this entire controversy, including the taking down of this particular film, controversial as it is? Because we did see lots of messages in solidarity with the makers of the film from across the spectrum when it comes to the entertainment industry. And we ran some of those views yesterday as well as part of a graphic. What are sources from within the film fraternity telling you about this entire matter?
I think largely it is touching on three broad debates. The first is, one, OTT releases are now just as important as theatrical releases because they're creating a similar degree of storm. The second is, of course, where the traditional censorship rules that apply on theatrical releases should now be applicable on OTT. And the third is whether historical accuracy can be edited for the sake of art. So broadly, I think the film has sparked these three very pertaining questions. It's also a rare case where social media has come into the picture, with people sharing erstwhile clips of the movie which were live now. So everybody's basically seen it, but no one can officially see it. So there are a lot of different things at play here, which is what makes this Satluj row so unique.
Yes, absolutely. Sabyasachi, coming to you. Now, the government sources have said what they have to say. But what might place the ruling party in a bit of a quandary here is that some of their own members, including, I'll just come back to you, Sabyasachi, because we do have another view now, a former CBFC member, T.S. Nagabharna, joining us. Many thanks for speaking to Times Now. Your take on this entire controversy involving Satluj?
Basically, CBFC, any theatre release has to go through CBFC. That is the rules. But now, since you say that the OTTs have released the films,
yes,
I think some of them might have already taken CBFC permissions or their certifications, clarifying the certification instead of recertifications were also made. And if the OTT has made it a mandatory that there has to be a CBFC certification, then it is a necessary thing which OTT feels, the platform feels. But what exactly is happening, I think it has come in Z5, no? Z5 has got a norm and rules which they are following, I think so. So have they changed their rules? Is there anything which is happening like that in their OTT platform? So the problem is, don't blame CBFC for everything.
No, nobody is blaming the CBFC. The reason why this movie did not go for a theatrical release is presumably because the CBFC had recommended, as per sources, somewhere to the tune of 127 cuts. Maybe the filmmakers believed that that was unreasonable, and therefore they decided to release on OTT where the CBFC jurisdiction does not apply. That's the debate that we're having, and that's the conflict that we currently see between the filmmakers and the CBFC in this matter. Many thanks, Mr. Nagbarna. Let me go back once again to Sabyasachi. Sabyasachi, Harbhajan Singh, a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Vikram Sane, a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the Rajya Sabha, they were all, of course, erstwhile members of the AAP who en masse ended up defecting to the BJP. We also had Mr. R.P. Singh, the national spokesperson of the BJP, give a bite yesterday to the media. However, government sources now take a different view that perhaps taking down this film from the OTT platform was justified for national security reasons. But you have people from within the party also singing a different tune, standing in solidarity with the film. So isn't there a dichotomy there?
Well, that's right. See, the government sources definitely have said that this is not because of political motivation, but because of national security.
Well, we'll try to patch you again, Sabyasachi. Unfortunately, we have a problem with your audio line, but Shreya, Pragya, as well as Sabyasachi, many thanks for weighing in on this continuing controversy over Satluj. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more on the other side.